A Man Like None Other Chapter 91 to Chapter 100. Sure enough, seeing Wang Hanan and David's intimate actions, many men were instantly disheartened, and Kui Ziwen also looked at David with jealousy in his eyes. David introduced Wang Hanan one by one. When introducing Dao Sun Xiaomeng, David said, "This is Uncle Sun's daughter Sun Xiaomeng. Her father and my father are comrades in arms." When Wang Hanan heard it, he immediately understood that Chen Baoqiu wanted to ask someone to find a job at that time, and it should be Sun Xiaomen's father. So Wang Hanan enthusiastically stepped forward and took Sun Xiaomen's hand. "Sister Xiaomeng is so beautiful, I have heard Brother David and Uncle Chen mention you for a long time, but I have never seen it." Wang Hanan's enthusiasm also made Sun Xiaomeng smile. "Sister Hanan, you are also pretty. This is Zhang Tongjian, we are in the same group." David pointed to the corner. Zhang Tongjian with glasses said, "Hello." Wang Hanan smiled and stretched out her hand. "Hello, hello." Zhang Tongjian's face flushed instantly, and he gently shook hands with Wang Hanan. Seeing Zhang Tongjian like that made everyone burst into laughter. Soon, everyone became acquainted and began to sing and drink, and everyone began to attack David one after another, toasting David one by one. Seeing this, Wang Hanan stood in front of David. "You toast like this, Brother David will be drunk in a while, I will drink with you." Wang Hanan took a glass of beer and drank it. Wang Hanan took the lead for David. Of course, these men would not refuse. In their opinion, Wang Hanan can get away with just 2 bottles of beer. But soon, these people knew that they were wrong. How outrageous they were. "I saw Wang Hanan drinking with everyone, but he didn't even look like he was about to get drunk, and his face didn't even change." This time, everyone was dumbfounded, even David looked at Wang Hanan in disbelief. No one could have imagined that a girl who looked so weak could actually drink so much. At this time, there were more than 30 empty bottles at Wang Hanan's feet. Wang Hanan was fine, while the others were all blushing, and some people were crooked. "Okay, let's sing, don't drink all the time." Seeing this, Kui Ziwen could only stop everyone from drinking. If he was drinking, Wang Hanan would be fine, and it is estimated that everyone else would be drunk. "Sister Hanan, you can drink too much," Sun Xiaomeng said to Wang Hanan with envy and surprise in her eyes. Wang Hanan smiled, "I don't have anything else, I just can drink." "Sister, you are too good. If I have your drinker and drink in the future, I see who dares to compete with me." Wang Lanlan also sat with Wang Hanan and said with admiration, "Sister Lan Lan, you can also practice this amount of alcohol. I'll teach you another day, just for the name of the two of us, it's just fate." Wang Hanan said with a smile. I have to say that Wang Hanan is really good at communication. It didn't take long for the 3 women to become good friends who can talk about everything. "Sister, you said that you are good looking and have a good temper. Why do you like David?" "When I look at David, he looks like a big tail, which is annoying." Wang Lanlan also drank some wine and said to Wang Hanan without shyness. "David sits by himself, doesn't sing, doesn't drink, and occasionally says a few words to Zhang Tongjian, it really seems a little out of place." "Sister Lanlan, in fact, Brother David is a good person. We have been together since we were young. Maybe you are not familiar with him." Wang Hanan wasn't angry either, just explained lightly. Seeing Wang Hanan say this, Wang Lanlan couldn't help belittling David, so she picked up the microphone and said, "Let's go, let's sing a song." Wang Hanan not only looks good, but also sings first class, her voice is no different from the original singer. This time, it made many men jealous of David, especially Kui Ziwen, who looked at Wang Hanan with more and more hot eyes, but Sun Xiaomeng was present, and he didn't show too much enthusiasm. With Wang Hanan singing, the atmosphere in the entire private room almost reached its peak, and everyone was dizzy and jumping. Zhang Tongjian was also poured a few cups. At this time, his face was red and he stood up and jumped along with him. Only David sat alone in the corner, watching quietly. Just when everyone was having a good time, the door of the private room was suddenly pushed open, and a bald middle-aged man walked in with a glass of wine, followed by 2 bodyguards in suits behind the middle-aged man. Seeing that someone suddenly broke in, everyone stopped and looked at it in confusion. Wang Hanan also put down the microphone in his hand. The middle-aged man's eyes were a little blurry, his face was flushed, and he was obviously drinking too much. After breaking in, he glanced at the people in the private room, and raised his mouth. It turned out to be a bunch of raw melon eggs, who just sang it. "It's pretty good, I'll sing 2 songs in the private room with me." The words of the middle-aged people made everyone look at each other in dismay, and no one dared to make a sound. It was obvious that these middle-aged people were not ordinary people, and their group were just wage earners, but no one dared to mess with them. Seeing that no one was talking, the middle-aged man turned his attention to Wang Hanan. Wang Lanlan followed the 3 girls' Sun Xiaomeng, because only the 3 of them had the microphone in their hands. "The 3 chicks are all good, take the 3 of them to my private room." As the middle-aged man spoke, he took out a stack of 100 yuan bills from his pocket and threw them at the 3 girls. The 2 bodyguards behind him walked over. This frightened the 3 of them, and they were so frightened that they retreated again and again, and Kui Ziwen stepped forward with a somewhat ugly face and stood in front of him. Now there is only his high status here. If he doesn't show up at this time, he will be laughed at, not to mention that Sun Xiaomeng is still his girlfriend. "How can I watch my girlfriend being taken away, but I am indifferent." "This gentleman, who are you?" "We are just here to sing and relax. The 3 of them are our friends, not accompanying singers." Kui Ziwen said to the middle-aged man. "It doesn't matter if I sing with you. I give you money. Don't you feel ashamed when you come to this kind of place and only dare to order beer? Let the 3 little girls sing for me, and I will order you a few bottles of Lafite." The middle-aged man stepped forward and patted Kui Ziwen's face. The actions of the middle-aged man can be described as not very harmful and highly insulting. This is to treat Kui Ziwen as a little boy. Kui Ziwen got angry and pushed the middle-aged man away, almost preventing him from falling down. As soon as he pushed it away, Kui Ziwen regretted it. He didn't know who the other party was. "Damn, push me!" the middle-aged man said angrily, "beat him for me." After that, the 2 bodyguards rushed towards Kui Ziwen, which scared Kui Ziwen enough. When they saw that the other party was about to make a move, the others didn't care about being afraid, and grabbed the wine bottle and stood with Kui Ziwen. After all, Kui Ziwen was their manager, and now is the time to show their loyalty. There are only 3 people on the other side. With so many of them together, they will definitely be able to beat each other. When the 2 bodyguards saw this, they were all stunned for a moment. They didn't expect that this group of young people was actually quite united, and the 2 bodyguards didn't dare to do anything for a while. At this moment, Kui Ziwen was very happy. Seeing that the 2 bodyguards did not dare to do anything, he immediately stepped forward and kicked one of them. "Get out of here now, and I'll just pretend that this never happened." When the bald middle-aged man saw this, his eyes narrowed slightly, but when he looked at the crowd, they were all stunned. "Wait for me, report your name if you have the ability, and see if I won't kill you. My name is Kui Ziwen, and I'm waiting for you here. Do you think my brothers are vegetarians?" At this moment, Kui Ziwen felt like a big man on the Tao, and that feeling was refreshing. "Good, good, good." The middle-aged man said 3 good words in a row, turned around and left with 2 bodyguards. After the middle-aged man left, Kui Ziwen felt very happy. He had never felt this way before. Manager Kui is too good. With that kick just now, the other party didn't even dare to give a f.art. Manager Kui was like that just now. Those who didn't know it thought it was the eldest brother on the road. Manager Kui is awesome. I doubt whether Manager Kui has ever been on the road. A group of people touted Kui Ziwen one after another, which made Kui Ziwen go to heaven. Kui Ziwen was proud in his heart, but he pretended to be light-hearted and said, "It's all up to everyone to support me, since the brothers are interesting enough, I can't be stingy today, Kui Ziwen, this time I will serve a few bottles of La Fight, how many brothers try it all?" Brilliant! Long live Manager Kui! When everyone heard La Fight, they all shouted excitedly. You must know that migrant workers like them rarely drink this kind of wine. Ziwen, let's go. If the other party really asks someone to come, it will be troublesome. Sun Xiaomeng persuaded Kui Ziwen. At this time, Kui Ziwen used his drunkenness and so many people to support him, how could he be afraid of the bald middle-aged man? Don't worry, Xiaomeng, with me here, you don't have to be afraid. Kui Ziwen patted his chest and said. Manager Kui, I heard that this KTV is the store of Jiatang, which is run by Lin Tianhu. We just had a fight, will it be? An employee said cautiously. I'm afraid, I know Lin Tianhu very well, don't worry. Kui Ziwen waved his hand and said cooingly. When Sun Xiaomeng heard that it was Lin Tianhu's store, she immediately relaxed and said, since it's Lord Tiger's store, it's easy to handle, Ziwen is very familiar with Lord Tiger, and my company's external account is just a word from Ziwen, Tiger Lord helped to come up. Sun Xiaomen's words immediately made everyone look at Kui Ziwen with admiration. It would be awesome to know the underground emperor in Horindal, but he could show off for a lifetime. Manager Kui is so secretive, he actually knows him even with Master Tiger. Since we know Tiger Master, then we are still afraid of a ball. If the other party dares to come, he will cry and call his mother. Let's drink, with Manager Kui here, who dares to provoke us? Hearing that Kui Ziwen knew Lin Tianhu, these guys became even more reckless. David sat in the corner of his mouth was slightly raised, and he smiled faintly. It seems that this Kui Ziwen doesn't suffer, and he always lives in his dreams. Why are you smiling? You still have a smile on your face. That old guy was going to take us away just now, you were so frightened. Wang Hanan is your girlfriend, you can't even protect your own girlfriend, what kind of man are you? Laugh out loud. Seeing David sitting in the corner laughing, Wang Lanlin immediately rebuked with dissatisfaction. Yes, is he still a man? His girlfriend was about to be taken away, and he turned a blind eye. If Manager Kui hadn't come forward, you would have been cuckolded today. And this Zhang Tongjian, who doesn't dare to move while sitting, has no backbone at all. Everyone began to criticize David and Zhang Tongjian one after another. After all, they just sat there and didn't move. David knew that he didn't have to move, and that Zhang Tongjian was really too scared to move. Okay, ignore these two cowards, go out and ask for La Fight, let's drink. Kui Ziwen waved his hand and said. Soon someone went out to ask for a drink, while others gave David and Zhang Tongjian a cold look, and no one paid any attention to them. At this time, in the office of the general manager of Dynasty KTV, the bald middle-aged man was inside with two bodyguards. The office decoration is very luxurious. Behind a desk that is more than 3 meters long sits a man in a Chinese tunic suit. Behind the man stands a girl, wearing a cheongsam, the hem of which is open to the waist, revealing fair skin and a face. With thick makeup on it, he is pressing his head for the man in the tunic suit. This man in Zhongshan suit is Ho Chun-li, the KTV manager of the dynasty, and he is also Lin Tianhu's right-hand man, otherwise Lin Tianhu would not have handed over this KTV to him. Boss Jian, what made you angrily find me here? Ho Chun-li half squinted his eyes and asked lightly. Manager Ho, your dynasty KTV is too messy. Just now, a bunch of Leng Toking actually beat my people, and now there are clear footprints on my people. The bald money boss pointed to one of his bodyguards and said. There is also a clearly visible footprint on the bodyguard's belly. Is there such a thing? Ho Chun-li opened his eyes and sat up straight. Who is the other party? Did Along help? In Ho Chun-li's view, only the guys from the Along gang dare to make trouble here. It doesn't look like it, it's just a bunch of young people. I heard that some girls in their private room sang well, and I wanted to take them to my private room to sing 2 songs, but I didn't expect these guys to dare to do it. Boss Jian's eyes flashed with chills, and he gritted his teeth and said, I see that this is Lord Tiger's place, so I came over and told Manager Ho. If Manager Ho doesn't care, then I will find someone myself. Manager, don't blame me. It's just a bunch of little boys, why is Boss Jian angry? I'll send someone to follow Boss Jian. Ho Chun-li said, and shouted towards the door, Binzi. At this time, a man with a fierce face and tattoos on his arms walked in. Brother Ho, Na Binzi shouted respectfully. Someone was making trouble at KTV just now. You can follow Boss Jian to see if you don't kill anyone. Recently, Lord Tiger has spoken, let's keep a low profile. Ho Chun-li ordered to that Binzi. I know Brother Ho. Binzi nodded. Manager Ho, thank you very much. Boss Jian bowed his hands to Ho Chun-li. Boss Jian is being polite. If you are angry with me, of course I have to take care of it. In the future, Boss Jian will just take care of my business. Ho Chun-li smiled lightly. Soon, Boss Jian took Binzi to the private room where David and the others were, followed by more than a dozen KTV thugs. In the private room at this time, Kui Ziwan and the others were drinking Lafite, all of them flushed and shouting excitedly, when suddenly the door was kicked open. Everyone was stunned. When they saw that it was the bald middle-aged man who brought them back, they all showed panic on their faces. After all, there were more than a dozen people behind the other party this time, and they all looked fierce. Boss Jian, who moved the hand just now? Binzi asked Boss Jian. Boss Jian kept saying to Kui Ziwan, it's him, this kid beat me up. Binzi glanced at Kui Ziwan, then glanced around, and immediately knew that these people were ordinary people, not just on the road. You just beat up Boss Jian's person? Binzi asked indifferently as he walked up to Kui Ziwan. Seeing Binzi's face and the tattoos on his body, Kui Ziwan was a little scared, but with the strength of the wine, Kui Ziwan nodded, yes, I beat him, they bullied my girlfriend. Binzi saw that Kui Ziwan actually admitted it directly, but he was a little surprised. He looked Kui Ziwan up and down and said, you have the talent, you dare to act, and I will not embarrass you. Now go to your knees and apologize to Boss Jian. Today it's over. When he heard that he was asked to kneel, Kui Ziwan would agree, shook his head and said, let me kneel for him, that's impossible, it's him who provokes us first. When Binzi saw Kui Ziwan's rejection, his face suddenly turned cold, no one dares to reject my words. With that said, Na Binzi suddenly shot, grabbed Kui Ziwan's collar directly, and lifted Kui Ziwan up. When the others saw this, although they wanted to go up and help Kui Ziwan, they were all cowardly when they saw the dozen or so thugs who were staring at Boss Jian behind him. Ziwan, Sun Xiaomeng saw that the other party actually made a move, and immediately shouted and rushed over, let him go, my father is Sun Fuhe, and we are the employees of the Sui family's heart. Sun Xiaomeng tried hard to break Binzi's hand, but no matter how hard she tried, Binzi didn't move at all. At this moment, Kui Ziwan's face turned red, his breathing began to be difficult, his eyes were wide open, and his mouth was wide open. The fear of death haunts him constantly. Seeing Kui Ziwan like this, Sun Xiaomeng was very anxious, and continued to shout, this is Lord Tiger's territory. You are in Tiger Lord's territory. Tiger Lord will never let you go. He knows Tiger. As soon as Sun Xiaomen's voice fell, Binzi's expression changed slightly, his brows furrowed, and his hand was released. Cough cough cough. After Kui Ziwan was released, he coughed hard and gasped for breath. Ji Yuan, are you all right? Sun Xiaomeng asked with concern. Others saw that Binzi heard Tiger Lord, and immediately let go, thinking that Binzi was very afraid of Lin Tianhu, so they shouted, our manager Kui and Tiger Lord are very familiar, you dare to touch him, Tiger Lord. I can't forgive you. Let me tell you, if our manager Kui said a word, then Lin Tianhu should be obedient. Just yesterday, our manager Kui only made a phone call, and then Lin Tianhu went to help and ask for the account right away. If you messed with manager Kui, just wait to die. Those people in the sales department under Kui Ziwen, knowing that the other party was afraid of Lin Tianhu, started shouting one by one, blowing Kui Ziwen into the sky. After David in the corner heard this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but lift slightly. These ignorant guys, the more he said this, the more he pushed Kui Ziwen towards the brink of death. When Kui Ziwen heard that these guys were touting him indiscriminately, he was so frightened that he could not wait to scold these guys fiercely. Listening to everyone's words, Binzi's face became more and more ugly, and the killing intent in his eyes became more and more intense. Although Ho Chun Li told him not to kill people, but these guys were bluffing outside in the name of Lord Tiger, how could he bear it? Seeing Binzi's face getting more and more ugly, Kui Ziwen's group thought they were afraid, and they all became proud. You know what you're afraid of? Get out now, if we call Lord Tiger, none of you will be able to leave. Sun Xiaomeng also followed Binzi with a proud face. Shut up, shut the fuck up. Kui Ziwen yelled at Sun Xiaomeng. Only he himself knew that he didn't know Lin Tianhu at all, and he hadn't even seen Lin Tianhu. Seeing Kui Ziwen yelling at him suddenly, Sun Xiaomeng was stunned, wondering what happened to Kui Ziwen, but he didn't dare to speak. You know Tiger Master? Binzi asked Kui Ziwen gloomily for a moment. Kui Ziwen is now being held up by everyone, and there is no way to do it. If he admits that he does not know him at this time, he will be laughed at by everyone. Gritting his teeth, Kui Ziwen could only nod his head. I've met Tiger Master. Kui Ziwen's words were ambiguous. After all, he had seen Lin Tianhu, but he did not necessarily know Lin Tianhu. Originally, you only need to kneel down and apologize, but you don't want you to be swindling outside with the name of Tiger Lord. Since that's the case, then none of you want to leave today. Binzi's words were tinged with chills, which made these guys who didn't know the heights of the sky felt a chill. Ha ha ha, UBA5TARDS, do you know who this is in front of you? He is the #1 thug of Brother Ho, under the command of Lord Tiger, and you are bragging in front of him, saying that you know Lord Tiger? Look! Come on, you've come to the end of your life. The money boss burst out laughing. These people are just ordinary guys who can't be ordinary. How could they know Lin Tianhu? Boss Jian knew that they must be pretentious. Sure enough, after hearing what Boss Jian said, Kui Ziwen's forehead was instantly covered with cold sweat. He didn't expect that he was pretending to be forced and bumped into the muzzle of the gun. It's just that other people under Kui Ziwen didn't think so. They thought that Kui Ziwen really knew Lin Tianhu. That Sun Xiaomeng has always believed that Kui Ziwen must know Lin Tianhu. Even if Kui Ziwen doesn't know him, his friends must know him. Otherwise, why would Lin Tianhu come up with the debts of his family? Boss Jian, our brother also drank a little wine just now. Now my brother is not with you. I hope Boss Jian. Kui Ziwen was discouraged and started to apologize to Boss Jian. It's just that the words were not finished, but Binzi interrupted directly, dare to borrow the name of Tiger Lord, this is not as simple as an apology, can you survive, you see fortune. After Binzi finished speaking, he waved his hand directly to his subordinates and said, take everyone away, and let Brother Ho go and deal with it. Soon, more than a dozen vicious thugs directly surrounded them, making Kui Ziwen and Sun Xiaomen's faces change with fright. Zhang Tongjian in the corner was trembling even more at this time, his pants were wet, and his hands were tightly grasping David's sleeves. He is just a college student who has just graduated and not long ago. I have never seen such a scene before, and now I am scared to death. Seeing Zhang Tongjian like that, David patted him on the shoulder and said, relax, it'll be all right. Soon, Kui Ziwen and the others were taken to Ho Chun Li's office. At this time, Ho Chun Li was closing his eyes slightly, enjoying the secretary's massage, when he suddenly saw Binzi brought back a group of people, and all of them were little hairy children. The more he frowned and said, "Binzi, bring a group of little hairy children. What is the child doing?" "Brother Ho, this is the group of people under the money boss," Binzi said. "Didn't I let you deal with it? What are you doing with my office?" Ho Chun Li looked a little unhappy. "Brother Ho, this guy said he knew Lord Tiger, and he was very familiar with him, so I brought it here to let Brother Ho go down," Binzi hurriedly explained. "What?" When Ho Chun Li heard this, he sat up straight, then looked at Kui Ziwen coldly. "Do you know Tiger Master?" I, Kui Ziwen stammered, "My friend knows." "What's your friend's name?" "I've been with Lord Tiger for many years, and I know the names of all his friends," Ho Chun Li continued to ask. This time, Kui Ziwen was stopped. He didn't know Lin Tianhu's friends at all. With his level, how could he have a relationship with Lin Tianhu? Snapped. Suddenly, Ho Chun Li slammed the table and stood up. "You guys are so bold, you dare to use the name of Lord Tiger." At this moment, everyone's expressions changed suddenly, and Kui Ziwen was even more sobered up by a cold air that went straight to the top of his head. He never imagined that he was vain and pretended to know Lin Tianhu, but he didn't want to cause trouble. Seeing Kui Ziwen's reaction, Boss Jian sneered, stepped forward and gave Kui Ziwen a slap in the face. "Aren't you very good? People who dare to beat me, dare to use the name of Tiger Lord, I see that you are impatient to live." Boss Jian slapped that Kui Ziwen into reality, and hurriedly begged for mercy. "Boss Jian, I was wrong, I don't dare anymore, I don't dare anymore." Kui Ziwen's begging for mercy also brought those under him and Sun Xiaomeng back to reality in an instant. They knew that Kui Ziwen didn't know any Lin Tianhu at all, he was just bragging. At this moment, everyone began to tremble. If Kui Ziwen didn't know Lin Tianhu, what else would they have to rely on? "Wrong." Boss Jian sneered, "It's useless to admit my mistake now, just wait to die." Hearing this, Kui Ziwen couldn't hold it any longer, and knelt to the ground with a thud. "Brother Ho, I don't dare to use the name Tiger Lord anymore, please, please forgive me." Kui Ziwen was already crying bitterly at this time, and he regretted it to death. Kui Ziwen is already like this, and the other people are even more ashen, and Sun Xiaomeng looks at Kui Ziwen in surprise, not knowing what he is thinking. Looking at Kui Ziwen who was on his knees begging for mercy, and at a group of panicked young people, Ho Chun Li looked at Boss Jian and said, "Boss Jian, this matter started because of you, how do you deal with it?" This is Ho Chun Li's face to sell the money boss. After all, the money boss is a major KTV customer. You help Lang Toking, it doesn't matter even if it's abolished, let them all get out. Boss Jian waved his hand. When Kui Ziwen heard this, he kept kowtowing and thanking him, but when everyone was relieved, Boss Jian glanced at Wang Hanan and Sun Xiaomeng with silver eyes and said, "Men can go. But the three women must stay with me." Upon hearing this, Wang Hanan and Sun Xiaomen's expressions suddenly changed, and Kui Ziwen's expression became very embarrassed. After all, Sun Xiaomeng is his girlfriend, he can ignore Wang Hanan and Wang Lanlin, but he can't ignore Sun Xiaomeng. After all, Sun Fuhei just recognized him. "Boss Jian, this is my girlfriend, can I take her away, and she will stay with you? My girlfriend and I have been living together for more than a year, so I think Boss Jian doesn't like it." Kui Ziwen pointed to Sun Xiaomeng, and then said with a smile. In fact, he never touched Sun Xiaomeng at all, but he just wanted to use this to get Sun Xiaomeng out of danger. Sun Xiaomeng glanced at Kui Ziwen, but didn't say anything. After all, at this time, it was most important to get out first. Sure enough, when Kui Ziwen said this, a bit of disgust flashed in the eyes of Boss Jian, and then he waved his hand and said, "Go away, leave those two women behind." Seeing this, Kui Ziwen desperately followed Boss Jian to thank him, then turned around and left. "Manager Kui, don't leave me, don't leave me." Wang Lanlan panicked and hurriedly pulled Kui Ziwen's arm. And Wang Hanan also looked panicked and looked at David helplessly. At this time, she could only ask David for help. After all, she was not familiar with these people, and no one would offend these people in front of her for her. "Lanlan, just drink 2 glasses of wine with Boss Jian. I'll be fine. I'll come back to pick you up later." Kui Ziwen pushed Wang Lanlan away. Wang Lanlan suddenly became desperate, and Wang Hanan, with tears in her eyes, lightly grabbed David's clothes. She wanted David to go, but she didn't want to stay by herself. She was very contradictory. "Don't worry, I won't leave." David smiled at Wang Hanan. "Brother Chen, let's go." Zhang Tongjian rushed out of the room first, then turned back and shouted at David. That Sun Xiaomeng also looked back and found that David was motionless, so he also shouted, "David!" Boss Jian also saw that David had no intention of leaving, so he said with a cold face, "Why, I can't bear my little girlfriend, don't you want to leave?" As Boss Jian said, he reached out to Wang Hanan and touched Wang Hanan's face. At this moment, Wang Hanan was so frightened that his face was pale, and he didn't even dare to dodge. But just when Boss Jian's hand was about to touch Wang Hanan, David suddenly grabbed the Boss Jian's wrist. "I didn't even think about leaving," David said, exerting a little force, only to hear the sound of a bone crack, and David's wrist was suddenly broken by David. The severe pain caused Boss Jian to howl instantly. The heart-piercing howl sounded very intimidating. "Paralyzed, my hand is broken, let go or I will kill you, and even play with your girlfriend." Boss Jian roared loudly with a grim expression on his face. Bang! David kicked it out, kicked Boss Jian's lower body directly, and kicked Boss Jian out directly. And that Boss Jian lay hunched on the ground, his face turned purple. David's kick directly made Boss Jian lose his ability to be a man. When Ho Chun Li saw this, his anger immediately rose, and he dared to beat his guests in front of him, which made Ho Chun Li feel shameless. "Kid, you dare to do something in front of me, you are really kind." Ho Chun Li's face was terrifyingly cold, and he waved his big hand, "Close the door, no one is allowed to leave." Kui Ziwen and the others, who were about to leave, were all driven back and locked in the office again. This time, everyone was waiting for David angrily. If David hadn't pretended to force him, they would have left now. "David, what the H3LL are you pretending to be? We can't leave now." Kui Ziwen roared at David. Now that David has beaten the Qian boss like this matter must not be let go. You said that everyone has let go, but this guy David is pretending to be a woman, and now even they are implicated. "David, if you want to die, please pull us up." "That's right, what are you pretending to be? If you can fight, go to the street and fight." "It's over, I'm going to be killed now." Everyone is accusing David. Even Wang Lanlan was no exception. Although she was the one who was left behind, she would have a glass of wine with her, and if she couldn't, she would sleep with her, and it might have passed, but now, she beat people like this. "I'm afraid it can't be solved by sleeping." Only Wang Hanan looked at David worriedly, with tears in his eyes. "Brother David, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Wang Hanan knew that if it wasn't for himself, David would not have done it, and now David might have to go to jail, or even lose his life. "It'll be fine, don't worry," David smiled lightly. Seeing that David seemed to be nothing, the others were even more angry this time, and the accusations and insults against David were even more difficult to sound. And that Ho Chun Li's face became more and more gloomy. "Binzi, let this kid be abolished." Binzi nodded, and he rushed towards David with a vigorous step, and his fist as big as a sandbag swung towards David's head. If this punch hit David's head, it would definitely burst his brain on the spot. Seeing this, everyone was so frightened that they dodged, for fear that they would be splashed with blood. Only Wang Hanan's eyes were firm, and he stood in front of David with clenched teeth. Since David is for herself, Wang Hanan also intends to risk her life. She can't watch David be beaten to death in front of her. A huge strong wind was blowing towards Wang Hanan, so scared that Wang Hanan closed his eyes and pulled David with one hand, leaving David behind him. Hanan! Sun Xiaomeng couldn't help shouting. Although I just met with Wang Hanan, Sun Xiaomeng felt that Wang Hanan was a good person, knowledgeable and reasonable. Seeing Binza's fist in front of Wang Hanan even felt the breath of death, but after a gust of wind blew, there was no more movement. When she slowly opened her eyes, she found that Binza's fist was there, a few centimeters away in front of his eyes, and David's hand directly grabbed that Binza's fist, preventing him from moving forward. This time, everyone's eyes widened, feeling incredible, and that Binza's expression also changed, with a deep shock in his eyes, because he could feel that from David's body, there was a steady stream of power in the burst. No matter how hard he tried, it was of no avail. If you weren't Lin Tianhu's subordinates, you'd all be corpses now. David gave it away slightly, and that Binza's body suddenly stepped back, and finally sat on the ground. Seeing Binza like this, Ho Chun-li suddenly became popular. Damn, trash, can't even handle a little kid. Ho Chun-li kicked that Binza fiercely. Binza got up in a hurry and lowered his head in embarrassment. Although he fell, Binza was not injured. David was merciful. After all, these people are his own. Let us go, today's business is over, or you will regret it. David said to Ho Chun-li. Regret? Ho Chun-li sneered, I never knew what regret was. After Ho Chun-li finished speaking, the door was opened, and dozens of people rushed in with machetes, directly surrounding David and the others. There were just a dozen people around, and they were only bare-handed. Although they were all fierce, but Kui Ziwan and the others were all able to control their own bodies. But at the moment, surrounded by dozens of people holding bright machetes, and feeling the chill on the machete, Kui Ziwan and the others were all frightened. Several people fainted from fright on the spot, and many people urinated directly. Even Kui Ziwan was not spared, the pants got wet. Boy, today I can chop you into minced meat, do you believe it? Ho Chun-li said grimly. I seem to have heard that Lin Tianhu doesn't let you fight and kill, and let you do business seriously, but you are making such a big deal today, why don't you ask Lin Tianhu for instructions? David asked calmly. Ho Chun-li was stunned for a moment. After glancing at David, he hesitated for a moment, and then said to his subordinate, take care of them, one is not allowed to let go, I went to Tiger Lord to call. After Ho Chun-li finished speaking, he took out his phone and walked out. Seeing Ho Chun-li go to ask Lin Tianhu for instructions, Kui Ziwan and the others rolled their eyes in horror. You must know that Lin Tianhu's reputation in Horrendal is very bad. He is a murderous and ruthless master. If Lin Tianhu was really disturbed, none of them would be able to survive. Not only would they not survive, but they would be tortured to death. David, you are paralyzed, we are all going to die now, don't even think about living, you have to recruit Tiger Lord, we are all finished. Kui Ziwan saw that Ho Chun-li went to call Lin Tianhu, so he stared at David and cursed. David frowned, and a cold glow appeared in his eyes as he looked at Kui Ziwan. Kui Ziwan suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave, and was so frightened that he quickly closed his mouth. I don't want to die, I don't want to die, Dad! Dad! Sun Xiaomeng cried with fright, mumbling like she was crazy. For a while, many people began to cry, and the whole room was screaming. On the other side, Ho Chun-li called Lin Tianhu. He wanted to ask Lin Tianhu how to deal with these troublesome little boys. If it was normal, Ho Chun-li would call the shots himself, and David and the others would do it. Just a few ordinary young people, even if they disappeared, it would not cause any sensation. But now it can't be done. Lin Tianhu has clearly ordered them not to fight and kill them, and they will kill people indiscriminately. Ho Chun-li can only ask Lin Tianhu what to do. At this time, Lin Tianhe was already asleep. After receiving the call from Ho Chun Li, he yawned and said, "Monkey, it's so late, did something happen to KTV? Master Hu, there are a few little hairy children making trouble at KTV and hurting Binzi. It's too arrogant. I want to ask Master Hu, if you can get rid of these guys." Ho Chun Li asked cautiously. "Little boy." Lin Tianhe frowned, "Who are they? Are they from the Along gang?" With Lin Tianhe's reputation in Horrendal, no one dared to make trouble in his territory, unless it was a member of the Along gang. After all, Feng Sihai was just injured by David some time ago. Now, it is not impossible for the Along gang to find trouble with their Juyatang. No, it's just a bunch of stupefied youths who say they work in some company of the Sui family. There's a guy named David who injured Binzi. Ho Chun Li said. Hearing David's words, Lin Tianhe jumped off the bed. "Monkey, I'll rush over now, you're not allowed to do it for me, just wait for me." After Lin Tianhe finished speaking, he hung up the phone and ran out. Ho Chun Li heard Lin Tianhe's anxious voice, his face was full of doubts, but Lin Tianhe had spoken, he had to listen. "When I returned to the office was already stinking. Depend on." Ho Chun Li pinched his nose, "Open the window, what a bunch of stuff." Soon the window was opened, and fresh air blew in, which blew out the stench in the room a lot. Lin Tianhe said that he should wait honestly, but Ho Chun Li could only wave his hand and let the men with the knife withdraw to avoid being seen by Lin Tianhe. "I've already informed the Tiger Lord, and the Tiger Lord will be here in a while. If you have any last words, you can leave first." Ho Chun Li looked at David and the others coldly, with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. When they heard that Lin Tianhe was coming, this time Kui Ziwen and the others were stimulated again. The scene that was a little quiet just now turned into howling and howling in an instant. Who is Lin Tianhe? The entire Horrendal, even a 3-year-old child knows, that is the devil who kills without blinking an eye. "Brother Ho, it's all David's hands, it has nothing to do with us, let us go." Kui Ziwen knelt down to Ho Chun Li again. Everyone else also knelt down and begged for mercy, one by one kept kowtow. On the other hand, David held Sun Xiaomeng with one hand and Wang Hanin with the other, and did not let them both kneel. No matter how much Sun Xiaomeng thinks about herself, after all, Sun Fuhei is a good person and takes good care of David's family. David can't ignore Sun Xiaomeng. Seeing David not kneeling, Ho Chun Li wanted to scold him angrily, but when he remembered Lin Tianhe's advice, Ho Chun Li swallowed the words. "Humph, when Lord Tiger comes, you'll look good, and then I'll see if you're still majestic." Ho Chun Li thought to himself.